You ask me, my dear, why I haven't returned to Paris. You seem surprised, perhaps even a little annoyed. The reason I dare to offer may strike you as audacious. Does a hunter abandon the woods in the midst of the woodcock migration? Yes, I do appreciate city life, its comfort, its bustle, its rhythm. But I still prefer the freedom, the rugged charm of autumn hunting. In Paris, I never truly feel free. The streets, after all, are nothing more than vast, crowded apartments without a ceiling. And can one really speak of fresh air while walking on stone or wooden pavements, hemmed in by rows of buildings, where the eye meets only walls and not green vistas, plains, or forests? People jostle, greet, chatter. And even if the rain drums on your umbrella, that's hardly nature. Here in the countryside, I feel sharply, almost blissfully, the contrast between the indoors and everything beyond it. But that's not what I wish to speak of now. The woodcocks are flying. I live in a large Norman house nestled in a valley near a river. I go hunting almost every day. On other days, I read serious, profound books that Parisians, caught up in their whirlwind lives, rarely open. These are the works of an honest, gifted foreign scholar who devoted his life to studying how the senses shape human thought. But let us return to the woodcocks. I remain here with two friends, the D'Orgemont brothers, for the entire season, until the first frosts. And once the cold sets in, we move to their farm in Canetto, near Fee Camp. There, a small forest awaits us, enchanting, almost magical, where the woodcocks rest during their migration. You know the D'Orgemonts, two giants, true Normans, descendants of an ancient race of conquerors. They swept across Europe like a wave, France, England, Sicily. They built cities, defeated kings, outwitted popes, and left their mark wherever they went. In these brothers, everything is Norman, their voices, their intonations, their way of thinking, their fair hair and sea-colored eyes. When we're together, we speak the local dialect, live, think, and act like genuine Norman landowners, more rustic, even, than our own farmers. We've been waiting for the woodcocks for 2 weeks now. Each morning, Simon, the elder, says, the wind seems to have turned east. The frost is coming. In a couple of days, they'll arrive. But Gaspar, the younger, is more cautious. He waits for the real cold before making predictions. Then, last Thursday at dawn, he burst into my room shouting, "The ground's gone white. 2 more days, and we're off to Canetto." And so it was. 2 days later, we set out. You'd have laughed to see our vehicle, a strange contraption my father had specially constructed for hunting. Constructed is the only word that fits. It's something like an earthquake on wheels, crates for provisions, weapons, luggage, cages for dogs, all under one roof. The passengers sit on benches surrounded by railings, perched atop this rolling monstrosity that resembles a 3-story house. We climb aboard however we can, hands, feet, sometimes even teeth, since there's no proper step. Dressed like Laplanders, the D'Orgemonts and I mount this beast. We wear sheepskin coats, long woolen stockings over our trousers, gaiters over the stockings, black fur hats on our heads, and white fur mittens on our hands. Jean, my servant, hands us 3 long-haired dachshunds, Piff, Paff, and Moustache. Piff belongs to Simon, Paff to Gaspar, and Moustache to me. All 3 look like shaggy little crocodiles, long, low, crooked-legged, so furry they resemble yellow bushes. Their black eyes peek out from under heavy brows, and their white fangs are hidden beneath beards. We lay them at our feet for warmth. And off we go. The frost bites harder, the ride jolts terribly, but we're content. By 5 o'clock, we arrive. Uncle Pico greets us at the door, a stocky man, broad and strong as a mastiff, sly as a fox. Always smiling, always pleased, and a master at turning everything to his advantage. For him, woodcock season is a celebration. The old farmhouse stands in a courtyard planted with apple trees, surrounded by 4 rows of beeches that battle the sea wind year-round. We enter the kitchen, where a fire blazes in our honor. The table is set near the tall hearth, where a fat chicken roasts on a spit, its juices dripping into a clay dish. We're welcomed by the farmer's wife, a tall, silent, courteous woman. Her mind is consumed by household matters, her head full of numbers, grain prices, poultry, sheep, cattle. Dignified, methodical, and respected throughout the region. At the back of the kitchen stands a long table, soon to be occupied by the farmhands, carters, ploughmen, shepherds, laborious. They'll eat in silence under her watchful eye, glancing at us and listening to Uncle Picot's cheerful nonsense. Later, once the workers are fed, Aunt Picot will quickly eat her modest meal alone at the corner of the table, never taking her eyes off the maid. On ordinary days, she dines with everyone. The 3 of us, the D'Orgemals and I, share a single room, whitewashed and bare, with 3 beds, 3 chairs, and 3 washbasins. Gasper always wakes first and blows the morning reveille on his horn. Half an hour later, we're ready and set off with Uncle Picot, who hunts alongside us. Picot clearly favors me over his employers. Why? I haven't the faintest idea. Yes, exactly, because I'm not his master. So, Uncle Picot and I enter the forest from the right, while the 2 brothers take the left. Simon handles the dogs, leading all 3 on a single leash. We're not hunting woodcocks today, but rabbits. We're convinced that woodcocks can't be tracked, they must be stumbled upon. You come across one by chance, shoot it, and that's that. But if you lie in wait, you'll never see a single bird. And how thrilling it is, how joyful, when in the crisp morning air a sharp shot rings out, followed by Gasper's booming voice echoing through the woods. Woodcock. Down. But I'm a sly one. When I shoot a woodcock, I shout, rabbit. And later, at lunch, I triumphantly pull the bird from my hunting bag. Picot and I walk through the forest. The leaves fall slowly, rustling dryly and mournfully, their time has passed. A light frost has dusted the grass and the brown soil with white powder, nipping at our noses, ears, and eyes. But inside my sheepskin coat, I'm warm. The sun shines cheerfully in the blue sky, it doesn't warm, but it glows. Hunting in such a morning forest is pure delight. Suddenly, a short, sharp bark. It's Piff, I recognize his voice. Silence. Then again, clipped, insistent. Paff joins in. And where's Moustache? Ah, there he is, clucking like a strangled hen. They've flushed out a rabbit. Attention, Picot. The dogs dart forward, vanish, reappear. We follow them, hurrying along narrow paths, listening intently, fingers on the trigger. They race toward the field, and we follow. Suddenly, a grey blur, a shadow crosses the trail. I raise my gun, fire. A wisp of smoke dissolves into the blue air. On the grass, a bundle of white fur, still twitching. I shout at the top of my lungs, rabbit, down, and point it out to the 3 dogs, those shaggy little crocodiles. They wag their tails, congratulate me, and immediately dash off in search of the next prey. Picot approaches. Moustache barks again. The farmer says, they've caught the scent of another. Let's head to the clearing. We exit the woods. Just 10 steps away stands Gargan, Picot's deaf-mute shepherd. He's wrapped in a brown cloak, wearing a woolen cap, knitting a sock like all our shepherds. I greet him, as is customary. Good day, friend. Gargan raises his hand in reply. He didn't hear me, but he read my lips. For 15 years I've seen him every autumn, a motionless figure at the edge of the field, hands tirelessly knitting. The flock follows him like a loyal pack. Pico touches my sleeve. Did you hear? The shepherd killed his wife. I'm stunned. Gargan? The deaf-mute. Yes. Last winter. I'll tell you. We step into the thickets. Gargan reads lips, understands everything. It's as if he hears Pico, and Pico, like a sorcerer, deciphers every gesture, glance, and expression. Here's the story, simple and grim, like something from a village chronicle. Gargan was the son of a marl digger, a laborer who extracted the soft white stone used to fertilize fields. Deaf from birth, he herded cattle along roadside ditches since childhood. Then Pico's father took him in, and Gargan became the farm's shepherd. Loyal, honest, and oddly gifted, he could set bones after a dislocation, though no one had taught him. When Pico inherited the farm, Gargan was past 30, though he looked 40, tall, gaunt, bearded like a biblical patriarch. Around that time, a local woman named Martel died, leaving behind a 15-year-old daughter nicknamed Droplet for her fondness for drink. Pico took her in. Gave her odd jobs, paid nothing, just fed her. She slept wherever she could, in the barn, the stable, on straw, sometimes even on manure. With whomever, the groom, the farmhand. Soon she took up with Gargan. How did they understand each other? Had he known women before her? Or did she seduce him in a ditch or crawl into his cart? No one knows. But soon it was common knowledge they lived together as man and wife. No one was surprised. Pico found it perfectly natural. But the curate got wind of it and was furious. He scolded Aunt Pico, stirred her conscience, threatened divine punishment. What to do? Simple, marry them, take them to church and city hall. They had nothing, no proper trousers, no skirt without patches. So nothing stood in the way of law or sacrament. Within an hour, they were wed by the mayor and the priest. Everyone was satisfied. But soon a new pastime emerged, cuckolding Gargan. Before the wedding, few paid attention to Droplet. Now everyone did. For a glass of wine, she'd go with anyone, anywhere. Even folks from Gaudeville came, just to see. For half a litre, she'd put on a show in a ditch, behind a fence. And 100 steps away stood Gargan, motionless, among his bleating flock, knitting his sock. In taverns, they laughed till they cried. Around the hearth, it was all anyone talked about. On the road, they'd ask, "So, have you offered a droplet to Droplet?" Everyone understood. Gargan seemed oblivious. But one day, Poirot, a lad from Sasseville, lured her behind a haystack, waving a bottle. She understood instantly what was happening and, laughing, ran to him. But no sooner had they begun their forbidden act than the shepherd descended upon them like an avalanche. Poirot, seized by panic, fled in haste, dragging his trousers behind him, while Gargan, letting out a beastly roar, lunged at his wife and began to strangle her. Field hands came running, but it was too late. The woman's tongue had turned black, her eyes bulged from their sockets, blood streamed from her nose. She was dead. Gargan was tried in ruin. Since he was deaf and mute, Pico served as his interpreter. The details of the trial amused the crowd gathered in the courtroom, but Pico had only one concern: to secure the shepherd's acquittal. He took on the defense with the deftness of a rustic lawyer. First, he recounted Gargan's entire life story, from birth to marriage. Then, reaching the day of the crime, he began questioning the accused himself. The courtroom fell silent. Pico, speaking slowly and clearly, asked, "Did you know she was cheating on you?" and immediately clarified the question with gestures. Gargan shook his head in denial. "Were you lying in the haystack when you caught her with another?" The farmer mimed disgust, as if witnessing something vile. Gargan nodded. Then, imitating the mayor who seals a marriage in the name of the law, and the priest who joins the couple before God, Pico asked, "Did you kill her because you were bound to her before man and before God?" Gargan nodded again. "Then show us how it happened," said the farmer. And the mute reenacted the entire scene. He showed how he had been sleeping in the hay, how he felt movement nearby, cautiously raised his head and saw everything. Suddenly, he stood upright between the two guards and, without warning, mimicked the obscene gesture he had witnessed. A roar of laughter swept through the courtroom, but quickly died. The shepherd, his eyes wild, jaw and beard twitching as if ready to bite, thrust his hands and head forward, portraying the act of strangling his wife. He growled, consumed by rage, as though still gripping the throat of the adulteress. The guards had to force him back into his seat to calm him down. The room shuddered with horror. Then Uncle Pico placed a hand on his worker's shoulder and said, "This man has a sense of honor." And the shepherd was acquitted. As for me, my dear, I listened to the end of this tale with a kind of breathless awe, retelling it to you now without softening Pico's coarse expressions so as not to dull the edge of his story. And just then, a shot rang out, and Gaspar's voice thundered through the forest like a cannon blast. "Woodcock, down." That's how I spend my days, wandering the woods, shooting woodcocks, while you stroll through the Bois de Boulogne, admiring ladies in their elegant winter attire.